if you have a defensive player, right? If you have a pusher, a moon baller that likes to sit back, you cannot let them play that play style on you unless that's your play style as well.
I want to ask you, because I get this question a lot, what advice do you have for playing a moon baller, hacker, grinder? What you call it?
Get up to the net, get good at volleys and taking the ball out of the air.
That's it. All right. See you later, everyone.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, look, if here's the way I look at it, right? That was the short answer. And this is the long answer. Okay. The long answer is that in general, you don't want other players to impose their play style on you, right? Like, because they're better at that play style than you are. So if you're playing a servant volleyer, for example, then you want to prevent them from coming to the net, right? You want to make sure that you stand up close to the service line, take the return early, hit it deep into the court, make sure they're not coming in. Maybe you come in against them, whatever it is, make him play from the baseline, right?
Just to cut you off right there. You remember when Federer played Sampras at Wimbledon, and it was like what they call it, changing of the guard or something?
Sure. The
Federer and serve and volleyed every single point. Right. And he said, when they asked him, why'd you serve and volley? He said, because I'd rather be at the net and Sampras be at the back than the other way around. So it's just a strategic thing to make sure Sampras wasn't going to be at the net, even though Federer probably preferred to be at the baseline.
Right.
By being at the net, it took Sampras away from his game style. So,
and at that time, Sampras was the king of the court. So, so bringing it back to the moon baller thing, like if you have a defensive player, right? If you have a pusher, a moon baller that likes to sit back, you cannot let them play that play style on you unless that's your play style as well, right? Like if you're a moon baller and a defensive player, then you want to play that, and then you're counting on other factors like endurance, mental strength, whatever kind of like other edge you have on your opponents, then that's fine. Then you're going to have a grind fest. But if that's not your play style, if you prefer, let's say if you're a counter puncher, if you're an all quarter, if you're serve volley or something else, right? Then you want to make sure that they don't impose their play style. And the way you do that, right, is some of the things I've already said, like learn how to volley well, make sure you take a lot of balls out of the air, take balls on the rise. You don't have to take any undue risk because that's what they're counting on, right? Like I wouldn't, for example, start blasting ground strokes from the baseline on all these moon balls, because they're going to make every single moon ball and I'm going to make 2/3 of my ground strokes at the most. Yeah. And that's just not going to play out well.
They're looking for you to make bad decisions.
Right.
And I feel like that's what happens a lot when people are playing moonballers, is they lose patience and they make bad decisions. That's exactly what the other person wants. So got to show some patience and hang in there and kind of wait for your opportunities. One thing that I have always done is use my slice, because that usually makes them hit their next ball not quite as high. Like if I hit a high loopy topspin, they can hit a higher loopy topspin back. Whereas if I use a slice, it usually comes back a little bit lower, or I can bring them short, bring them up the court, bring them to the net. So I feel like the slice is a big weapon against the moon baller.
Yeah, bring the ball down, right? They want to keep the ball high. You can bring the ball down, and it forces them to play something different. Well, my biggest competitive mentor was a 15th century samurai named Miyamoto Musashi, and what he says is that if somebody plays like, if somebody fights like the mountain, you got to fight like the valley, and if someone fights like the valley, you got to fight like the mountain. So it just echoes what you're saying, whereas you need to play a play style that's kind of like opposite and forces them to do something else that they otherwise would, right? That wasn't so far-fetched, right?
No, I like it. You just
the way I started. So
no, that's right. I think drop shots, bringing them to the net. I mean, maybe your moonballing opponent is great at volleys, but usually not. So you can bring them forwards a little bit, make them have to do something.
Right. That's definitely the other option. Another thing I wanted to mention, right, is that you can relax against a moon baller. What I mean by that is like, you're not under pressure. Like nothing they do is going to endanger you, right? It's not like if you hit a somewhat questionable slice to the service line, they're not gonna all of a sudden start attacking it and come in behind it, right? That's not
Right.
them. They're just gonna
Mhm.
float it back. So you have room to play. Like you don't have to go for high risk. A lot of people think that because they're playing a defensive player, all of a sudden now they're forced to play high risk and start blasting the ball off the court. That's not necessarily true. You actually can sit back and think about what you're going to do, use, like you said, crafty shots in order to change up the play and make them do stuff that they don't want to do, like either, like you said, bring them to back, or maybe you can come in and just don't have to do high risk volleys, just place them well, stand a little bit closer to the base, to the service line, and wait for the overhead, right? Because they're inevitably going to lob. Or if they tried passing you, it's not going to be very aggressive pass. It's going to be a moon volley pass that you could just kind of walk over to the ball and angle it, you know.
Another thing
So
that tends to happen, you're saying that people tend to push a little bit too much, as in like overhit, get too aggressive, make some errors. But what I feel happens, the sort of other end of the spectrum, is that when these rallies are happening, the slow, nothing's essentially happening, the player who's playing against the moonballer kind of sees it as pointless to attack. So they end up just falling into this trap of just hitting crappy shots back to the moonballer, because what's the point? If I go for it, it comes back anyway. So their level tends to go down. Instead of, what you really should be doing is trying to hit a shot to the moonballer that at least puts them in a position where they can't hit a really good shot. So it might be a deep ball, might be a little bit to the backhand, making them run. Like even if two players are having a moonball session, back and forth for 20 shots, you still have to feel like your ball is more quality than their ball, even if nothing comes of it. Instead of just resigning yourself to, well, this rally is going to be crap, so I'll just push it hard, push it in the court.
and it can be incremental, like it can be just very marginally better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It shouldn't be. But
Like
yeah,
it's like being in a casino where every hand of at the casino playing blackjack, the dealer or the casino has, I think it's 0.5%
yeah, it depends on
more
it
chance.
depends on the player, but yeah,
No, if you just play by like the best
straight. I
player.
think it's like 1.5%.
Is it? I thought it was
I
less
don't
than
know, but
10%.
it just
But anyway,
depends like how much card counting you're doing.
over the course of a long period of time, the casino always wins, right?
Yeah, that's
So
true.
even though this rally might go on, you just have to edge it in your favor slightly. Just edge it 1% in your favor, and over the course of the match, you might come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good perspective. And I don't mean that the default is people blasting the ball on moon balls. That's not the default. The default is what you're describing. Like people tend to fall into their play style, which is why we opened up with like, you don't want to fall into the opponent's play style. So I just want to throw that out there.
Mhm.
That it's not, people try to overcorrect that. If you're aware of that, then you start blasting, which is also a mistake. So
Another
you don't want to
error that
blast.
just came to my mind is thinking that the moonballer is doing something wrong. Like, and you'll get this from parents who think that this moonballer has some right to play tennis in a different way. And you just complain that they're not playing tennis in the way it should be played. It's like,
Right.
that's a bad attitude to have. If you look at it in that way, you're just approaching the situation wrong. Like this moonball is often playing really smart tennis. They're playing to the best of their abilities. They're making good decisions relative to their skill set. And if you actually respect the way they're playing a little bit, you could find a solution to the problem. But if you just, start complaining about the way it's going.
I echo that. I also don't like this sentiment at all. The attitude is, I think, really really not productive. Like instead of trying to find ways to beat this opponent, you spending the entire match trying to find excuses as to why you lost, right?
Dude, I was
Just
on
saying, oh,
court.
did you see those balls? Like they always land on the baseline, like on the tape, and like how lucky can someone get? And the wind was helping him, and it was just swishing the ball everywhere, and I couldn't get anything. And the court is slow, and And topspin is just whatever. He doesn't know how to play. He only uses a Western grip and sits behind the baseline, and like, it's just
There was a match on the next court to me. I don't know if it was 3-5 or 4-0. One guy retired, said, I'm not playing anymore, because he said that the other guy was ruining his game by the way he was just pushing the ball in play. He's like, I can't play this. It's going to ruin my game. And just retired and left. And I was like, said to the
oh
guy, I was
wow.
like, oh, you beat him, and you beat him using the wrong style? Like, that's not a thing. It's not your job to beat him in a certain way.
Can you imagine like just watching a professional tournament, somebody playing a Dow and be like, no, I don't want to play against the Dow because he ruins my game.
Yeah, exactly. Too many high
He's got too much,
backhands.
yeah, too many high top spins, and it's not good for my flat forehand. So
Yeah, exactly.
just gonna skip this match. I'm only gonna play, like Fed and Tsitsipas or something from now on.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's covered quite a few things there. Anything else you want to say?
I mean, look, like I said, it's we definitely covered a lot of mistakes and tendency, and we talked about what to do, but it's really quite simple. Like, don't get suckered into the mooning play style, and don't try to go all the way 100% the other way and start blasting the ball either. Just have to be incrementally smarter, and make sure that you're making your opponent do things they don't want to do, which is sit back behind the baseline and lob. So whatever you can be creative, whatever you think is going to work. We gave you plenty of suggestions, right? From coming into net
Don't
to
moan
using
about
slices
it.
and bringing them in and everything else. So it's really a really good opportunity to sit back, relax, think, have a long point, right? A long point or two to kind of try to figure out what they don't like to do, and be creative. It's actually a really fun opportunity to try to explore different things about your play style. Like, it's not, I don't see it as a something you gotta like complain and drag your feet about. I think it's an opportunity to have fun and try some new things.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. I think it's far more frustrating. We've played matches where people are just banging aces down, and there's no rhythm, there's no points. You can't do anything. It's
Yeah,
okay for someone to hit me another shot that I can hit, and I can try and massage it around the court, create some opportunities.
yeah.
Worst things out there.
I've had an experience exactly like what you described. I played this lefty ogre, with a redhead fro that was about 3 feet across, in radius. And anyway, but he was about 6'5" or something like that, and his lefty serve bounced on the edge of the service box each time and hit the fence. Right, so I couldn't even get to it with my backhand. Like, I would have to stand literally in the service line in order to get his, but he landed even short, so I couldn't even stand on the service line, right, because it curved so much. There's just literally nothing I could do. I lost every single point when he was serving on the ad side, and that's just not fun at all. I'd much rather
Yeah,
play a moon baller
I would
any
much
day of the
prefer to
week.
play moonball.
Yeah,
Play a few drop shots. All right, man. We'll leave it at that so no one gets bored. But I think that was good.
yeah. Good
Cheers, man.
advice, Tom, as
All right.
always.
All right. Talk
Peace.
to you later. Bye.